I must say that we have a stellar panel out here today with us of the four gentlemen who've joined us here to talk about the restaurant business, particularly in South India, and how it has been growing steadily and upwardly in the last few years, and how it is likely to grow. So to take the conversation forward, I am going to first go to Mr. Teja Chakuri, who is the Managing Director of Iron Hill India, and he runs a host of restaurants, also one of the biggest nightlife restaurant in Bangalore, and a host of other restaurants outside India as well. Welcome, Mr. Teja. It's such a pleasure to have you here with us today at the IRC 2023 Curtain Raiser. To begin with, we would love to know a little more about how you built Iron Hill India into such a big sort of bouquet and a portfolio of restaurant brands. The nightlife scene we know is very vibrant in South India, particularly in Bangalore. But how do you see the consumer behavior out there, and what is so exciting about that market which made you take that plunge?
Thank you, Ritu. Thanks for the introduction. So when we were starting Iron Hill was initially started in Vizag. That's the first location. So after that, Vijayawada was our second location, and we are now across 6 locations. We are in Vizag, Vijayawada, Nellore, Rajahmundry, Hyderabad, Bangalore. So out of all these, Bangalore is our biggest location.
Right.
So before starting Bangalore location, we are worried. The main worry we had was, can we fill the space? Now, the problem we have is with the space. We don't have enough space.
That's a good problem to have.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have. So during COVID, I think all the F&B and the hotel industry, everyone suffered during the COVID period. But post-COVID, at least for us, we are doing fabulously well, and we are doing better than pre-COVID. So the F&B market on a whole is doing well, is what I think, and is growing rapidly. And the South Indian market, I think overall the whole country and the whole worldwide, it's doing well than just the South India. But now the menus and everything we are revamping and changing, and the most of the operations, the way we operate pre-COVID is different how we operate post-COVID. So everything is changing a bit. And the more innovative and unique concepts coming out every day. So, but the main challenge we see is the availability of good spaces.
Sure. And are you sort of also gung-ho about, you've already realized that Bangalore's been proven to be such a great market that, after opening one of the biggest nightlife restaurants, you're still short of space. So do you also see similar trends in other cities, in smaller cities like Visakhapatnam or even in Hyderabad, where such opportunities to open such places is also there?
Opportunity is there. So when we started Iron Hill, we entered the areas where no one was there. So even today, we are the only player in all the cities where we are across in Andhra Pradesh. So it's like a monopoly for us. But if you're talking about the size, if we build a space bigger than what we have right now in these smaller towns, it won't work because of the population. That's the main issue we have. So Bangalore, it's been heavy populated when you compare with Vijayawada or Vizag or any other smaller towns. So it can fill the space, which is so big, like around 1.3 lakh square feet. And compared to our other locations, Vijayawada, which is around 8,000 square feet, which is a much smaller space when you compare that with the Bangalore outlet. So the area, how big the outlet should be, usually we depend on the location where we are going and the population and the spending capacity of the people in that city. Based on all those factors, we decide on how big we should go in that area.
And do you, as I was saying, that in Hyderabad also, do you see this opportunity to have a big I think it's a 50,000, what's the size of the restaurant, the biggest restaurant that you have in Bangalore?
In Bangalore, it's 1.3 lakh square feet.
Yeah, and do you see in similar opportunity to do this in Hyderabad?
No. In Hyderabad, I think around 20-25,000 is a very good space,
Sure.
which is enough for Hyderabad. So, and the other advantage and disadvantage we have with Bangalore is traffic.
Right. Yeah.
So because of the traffic, people can't move around much. So if you are in one area, like say, for example, we are in Marthahalli. So people in that area or nearby areas, they can't move around too much. So obviously, it's like every area is a city by itself,
Right.
where
Correct.
people can't move around much. So, but in Hyderabad, because of the infrastructure we have and whatever, because of the population, all these factors, people can move around much easily than compared to Bangalore.
Right. And you know, you
So,
also have, sorry, please go on.
so that's one of the main reason why, like say, for example, if you start one big space in Hyderabad today, if tomorrow someone starts in in financial district, for example, so people can easily shift from this Jubilee Hills location to financial district location because of the traffic and ease of commute.
Sure. That's interesting to know. So do you sort of want to put other restaurants within Bangalore that size in other areas?
So we are doing one more iron hill in near Manyata Tech Park, which is around 2 acres,
Correct.
which comes to around the same size of the Marthahalli outlet. So we are doing one more of the bigger size outlet.
So that's very interesting. I mean, imagine it was hard to think of having one restaurant that size in a
Yeah.
city, and you're planning to put two. So obviously the opportunity is big and so rampant over there. But
Yeah.
also, I know that you have a lot of restaurants you're running outside India and markets which are still, you know, Indian restaurants have been sort of still fearful to enter markets like the US or Europe. So, you know, how different is it running a restaurant, Indian restaurant out there? And how do you sort of make it successful? So some of the best practices that you want to share here today.
So we have multiple brands in US. One of those is called Godavari, where we have around 30 locations across the East Coast. And we have one more brand called Madras Dosa Company, which we recently started. So that's more like a QSR model for dosa.
Right.
And we have 1947, which is a North Indian restaurant. And now we are starting one Indian gastro bar called Don't Tell Auntie in
Oh,
Boston.
nice. So how different
So,
is it? What is your experience of running restaurants over there?
the main issue is the manpower. In India, we can have as many people as we want if you're able to pay them. But in US, the main issue is getting, good manpower and hiring the manpower. That's the major problem we have. So, for example, in a kitchen here in India, we employ around 20 to 30 people. So, but in a kitchen in US, which does almost the same volume, we employ around 8 people.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's
You're able to achieve the same efficiency there?
yes, same efficiency, and it's more of because of the SOPs we follow there. And
And largely, you know, what part of the business is on automation side? You know, that what operations have you automized and what are the operations which are still only manual?
so the kitchen is always manual because the food has to be cooked.
Right.
So, but the customer front, the reservations and all the ordering process, everything is as much as we can. We try to automate that.
Great.
But in the kitchen also, the recipes and everything were formulated. So they need to, you just follow the recipes what were built.
Sure. So I'm going to come back to you again, Mr. Teja, and we're going to talk about more about ROI of running a restaurant in India versus outside. But first of all, I'm going to sort of jump on to Mr. Mahesh, who is the managing director of Go Pizza, and he's running a Korean international pizza chain here in India. Mahesh, we would love to explore more about how, you know, today when you're running a QSR chain in India, what are and that to a global one, what is it that you have to keep in mind, and what is it that you have to sort of know from a dynamic structure of running a restaurant in different places in running a global chain in India? Mahesh, can you hear me? Okay, so we'll probably come back to Mahesh again once he's Oh, Mahesh, are you able to hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Did you hear the question or do you want me to repeat it?
Uh, Please, the last sentence, please.
Okay. So I was asking you that today you're running a global food chain in India and that too a Korean one. And, you know, how is it? What are the dynamics of running a QSR global chain in India? And how do you sort of make the economics work across different locations? And, largely from a QSR perspective, what is the ratio of delivery to dining in that you think works the best for running a QSR restaurant today?
Very good afternoon to everybody. It's been challenging. It's been challenging during the COVID, and the COVID was a time when pre-COVID, Koreans thought, and they were running the chain. And during the COVID, they were about to pack up and go, and that's the time I joined. And we were thinking, how do we? And India with the bad global media press release, everybody thinking is that India is the place or not. But luckily, I had a very good board investors who trusted on me, and I joined the board. And I told them, just wait for the waves to settle. First wave happened, then second wave happened. Then I told, just wait, we'll launch the brand and we'll do it. As soon as the third wave settled and we launched the brand, India is a place of opportunity, opportunity, opportunity. And this is what today, after the 2 years, every investor wants to come to us just because of our population, because of our average age, because of the culture, because of the acceptability of the other trends also. And luckily, Korean wave, which is there because of K-pop and K-dramas, which happened during COVID with the Netflix, with everybody started learning new culture. It helped us also to accept to launch the brand in the right time. And after the Parasite got the Oscars, that was the time when we launched the brand. And when we launched the brand, I was just thinking, there are so many players in the pizza market. How do we launch differently? So our four USPs, which is shape, size, space, and service, itself stands out differently. The pizza, we started with oval shape. We serve the pizza in 5 minutes. We are a food tech company with AI and robotic. And our prices are affordable and with the Korean cuisine and with the Korean trends part of the menu. So all this distinguishes us to launch the brand. So when we launched the brand, I thought whether the old shape will be accepted by the customers or not, because the shape of the pizza is different. But we saw a different acceptance. We saw people coming in queue, and we launched the brands in different verticals, that is in malls and airports, high street, highways, education institutes. There are complaints in the education institute because the students are not going to college. They're sitting in the outlet listening to the music, BTS music. So that's the community. That's an opportunity which we have created. So these were the opportunities which were created. Now to run in India, when the Koreans were running, it was a challenging because they didn't know how to apply our legal regularities for a license, how much to pay, how to get license, how to recruit people. It was a challenge for a foreigners to run in India. But when I joined on the board, I made it, whatever cost was there, we reduced it to 70-80%, because the cost which they were paying, everything, it was a consultancy base, because they were not aware what to do. But it is very easy to run the business. That's what was shown to them. One is applying the licenses. The best part is our labor. They were shocked to hear the labor cost is very affordable. And if we have 10 people in one outlet, at Singapore and Korea, we have only 2 people who runs the show. That's why we get the robotics and the technology to help, because we see that as a competition. And when all the brands are expanding, we see that also a competition. Among us, front end will be a challenge because of high attrition and high competition. The price was the main thing which in India, which everybody has to accept. If the price is rightly being placed, people will come. And that's what we ensured, that affordable price. And we launched a pizza less than $1 price, so that everybody comes and tries the product. With this, we had a lot of Korean cuisines. We, in fact, launched recently ramen also as a part of the product. And it was selected globally in the review. The Go Pizza been using the Korean trend and launching pizza place, launching the ramen. We do have launched the outlets in Hyderabad, Chennai recently. Now today, as of today, we are 40. As we are moving, now we'll move to west and north. We are having a category of regional cuisine also with tandoori and makhni also as a part of it, because we believe in pizza for one, pizza for everyone. Everybody should afford it. Everybody should try it. And with this so much of opportunity of population, everybody can try this. The best part is today pizza is accepted very well. It is not like what it used to be 25 years back, where people used to say, what is this roti and sauce? Itna costly hai. But today the trend has changed. The generation gap has changed. People know what is the product. Today we do not have to market the product to tell what is pizza. Today we have to only tell them how different we are. And that's the advantage of having the global food chain in India. So these are the few things which we experimented in the last 2 years, and we see a huge opportunity. After the south, we'll cover west and north, and in another 6 months, we should touch 100 outlets. That's our plan.
Fantastic. I think that's a great feat and, turnaround after COVID that you managed to achieve. You just mentioned about, how you are making use of digitization and tech in your outlet. So can you sort of elaborate a little more about how you are sort of replacing automation with, and not just, tech and digitization, but also automation with humans in your kitchen?
True. As we know that we are going to be across everywhere now, even from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, the consistency will be a challenge tomorrow. How much sauce is applied, how much cheese is applied. That's where the technology plays a major role. As we have AI in our place, AI tells to the staff how many pepperonis have to be put, how much vegetable has to be put. So the training, it is not, training is a challenge in fact, but even if the staff is new, even if the staff we take from a rural, the technology will tell him how to make a pizza, how consistently it has to be made across everywhere. So wherever you go, the pizza quality and the taste will remain same. Not only that, today on the inventory system, today on the supply chain system, all this technology is helping us to have less variance. In fact, I'll say less variance, because still we feed the stock, but the software tells the person how to indent, how much to indent, when to indent, and why to indent. So this is how the technology, digitalization, consistency is helping us. And of course, the robotic part, because we have seen already in the other countries, manpower is a challenge. The robotic is helping us to give the pizza in 5 minutes, where with 2 people also we can run the show. As our formats are from 100 square feet to 2000 square feet, we can open anywhere and everywhere, because our backend is set, our supply chain is set. And that's why we see as an opportunity with the technology and digitization, we can expand. And we see, and in fact, investors are banking on it, that India is a place of at least 10,000 outlets, pizza outlets alone.
Sure. No, I think that's really fantastic in terms of how quickly you've sort of cracked the new age QSR model, I would say, that is happening. So I'm going to come back to you again, Mr. Mahesh, with more questions, but I'm going to now move to Mr. Sudeep Goenka, who is the chief of Goldie Group, and they've been helping the restaurants and work with multiple restaurants in the country in terms of helping them standardize their entire restaurants offering, the food offering that they have, and also at the same time helping to explore uniformity, quality, that they are, every restaurant is which is the hallmark of every restaurant if they have to grow their business significantly. So I'm going to ask Mr. Sudeep, today how restaurants are able to get their food offering more standardized, more uniform across restaurants. What do they have to do in order to be able to achieve it in the right manner and at the right cost?
Thank you, Rituji. Good afternoon, everyone. And I would congratulate Mahesh and Teja. I feel you are the Rajnikant and Prabhas of the industry, and I'm the backend guy. That is why my background is reversed. It's a mirror image of you guys. So to answer your question, I think the restaurants are doing a fabulous job. It is about us, the vendors and the supply chain people, who need to improvise and innovate along with the requirement of the restaurants in the country. If we go towards West, all the food processing manufacturers or food business operators like us work in very tandem with the retail or the QSRs of the country. In India, still, these are early days where QSR is growing up so fast. And when Mahesh says that his size of store is 100 to 200 square feet and more than 100 stores in the country, this gives us food business operators an opportunity to innovate on our pack size, innovate on the different SKUs which are required to create a dal makhani pizza or a paneer tikka pizza. So this is where a great opportunity is on the vendor side. Also, when I specifically talk about South India, which is actually four countries, people get mistaken by South India. So, there is a high literacy level. There is a lot of robustness, and in India, there is still a lot of traditional taste which prevails in spite of international taste coming in from people traveling abroad. So, this is where there is also a great opportunity that we innovate according to the traditional taste. If we travel abroad, eventually, I know most of the people, at least post COVID, and I would like to describe this into three phases. If we talk 3 decades back, it was only the quality of food that mattered when we went out to eat. 2 decades back, we had somehow in the middle forgotten the food. It was more about the ambience and the feel, how the place is, how it looks, how's the music, how's the lights. But post COVID, I think everyone would agree on the panel. There's a huge paradigm shift that people value food, the quality of food, the ingredients they are using in the restaurants, and they actually research it. And food has become very, very important. Even for Teja running a nightlife, a club, I think the food is actually a imperative importance when people actually rate you based on the quality of food they must have had late night. So this is where post COVID I feel the quality of food and innovation is really which is very, very important. And at Goldie Group, we have also innovated on our pack sizes. We have already started venturing into South India with Karnataka, modern retail chains in Tamil Nadu, started in Telangana, and soon Kerala. And I see a common factor. And when you say a pizza with dal makhani, you cited ramen. So we made ramen which was made in rice bran oil. We are probably the only manufacturers in the country. So this is where people want to eat out for a good fee. Second, they don't have enough time. Thirdly, and I heard this statement with one of my friends, people like to have ghar ka khana bahar and ghar ke andar bahar jaisa khana. So this is, they really want to go to a restaurant and feel like they've had something like a home food. And when they want to cook at home, they want to make something like a go pizza. So another change, when you actually eat outside in a good restaurant and you like it, especially all the mothers are intent to research and try to make the same thing in house also. This is where the restaurants have to constantly change the menu, constantly innovate, constantly bring in westernization and Indianization in our palate. So this is why if you see those bonsai kind of food, or the small pallets have started coming up where the variety is more important today. And this is where I feel, Ritu, that it's more about the food business operators like us and the chains collaborate together. And this is a great forum that you've created where we can have a great discussion and brainstorming and how to evolve India as a self-sustaining and Atmanirbhar in terms of all the Western food and Indianized food.
No, I think what a profound statement you made, Sudeep ji, about, घर पे बाहर का खाना और बाहर जाके घर का खाना. That is, I think, a new trend that you have sort of touched upon, when it comes to consumer behavior, which will help a lot of restaurants to actually sort of tweak their menus to understand how they want to eat and, how people want to be consuming food. And they might want to change their delivery menus also accordingly. But I can tell you, मैं personally अभी तक घर पे sushi नहीं बना पाई हूँ, बाकी मैंने बहुत कुछ बना लिया है. So you need to figure out something like the way you've done ramen. You also need to figure out something for sushi that way. So what I would also like to know, Sudeep ji, is that how are today restaurants being benefited by modern retail chains? We see that there's such good food and grocery stores and food and grocery chains today. So how are restaurants and food and grocery chains and modern retail formats working together?
So I think modern trade is a great revelation for this country, and it is a blessing that has happened to this country. And thanks to different top-notch corporates who have done it. With modern trade coming in, it has been able to pull in different varieties and different ingredients of different countries and also the country. This helps the restaurants to have the ingredients available near them. Before that, it wasn't available. Also, when I think the purchaser goes to the modern trade store, that is the time he starts thinking about innovation. He starts, I see in ramen, suddenly in last 2 years, the Korean ramen in India has really picked up.
Correct.
And this also tells about the spicy palate which all our kids have taken up, which was not there 10 years back. So modern trade actually helps us to innovate and also serves the HoReCa industry very, very well. Apart from that, modern trade also emphasizes brands like us to innovate specifically for HoReCa. All these modern trade channels have a specific uh, channel medium to supply to HoReCa and their needs. So I think it's a great blessing. These are still early days. These are still early days, and I think it will keep growing as we go by the days.
Sure. No, I completely agree with you over there. And I think not just is it going to be a blessing, but soon I think restaurants might actually feel challenged by it because वो frozen food को घर पे गर्म करना भी उतना ही easy हो गया है जितना So there is obviously for the restaurants the competition is not just within the industry but also from the supermarkets that is going to increase very quickly. So I'm going to now jump on to Chef Ami. Thank you for joining us, Chef. What I would want to know is today, this is the year of the millets, as the Prime Minister has pointed out. So how are we sort of adding millets to our menu? Are consumers being able to take it or they are just experimenting at this stage with the whole the millet story that is happening in India? And also, we have also seen on the other side there are a lot of inflationary trends in the country. Kabhi, the tomato is very expensive and then the onion is very expensive. So in such cases, as a chef, how do you sort of then tell your core team and also to the entire industry, how should they tweak their menus to be able to manage the costs? Because obviously, if you keep on passing every inflationary trend to the customer is going to be very dissatisfied about it.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Ritu, for having me. And first, I will talk about the millets. And millets have really taken well. And we are blessed to be in South India because millets are generally part of the diet here. Starting from ragi, which is very commonly used, to jawar, which is very commonly used. And now we have brands specifically towards these 4 states where brands are coming up based on millets. So that is something which is really taken off well. We as chefs also have put in a lot of efforts putting them on menus. We actually had a book which was inaugurated by our Prime Minister a couple of months back, where around 120 chefs from India and a couple of chefs from outside we have participated, and we gave out recipes where traditional recipes and contemporary recipes were also printed, and that book is called Milletology. So there's a lot of emphasis on millets, specifically from an agricultural point of view, because most of these crops don't rely on the rain. They sustain without much water, and that is when the yields are very high. The only challenge currently with millets is, since it's just picking up again, the production versus supply is a challenge at times. And I think in due course of time that will get sorted out, because more and more farmers will get into farming millets and the prices will come down. But yeah, it is taken up very, very well. So millets are going to be there, and the way rice is going to see a crisis, wheat is going to see a crisis in the next decades to come. I think millets are going to be playing a very key role in feeding the world. And another important part is because the way they are made in terms of the grains, they keep you full for a long, long time. It doesn't make you hungry like the other grains. So it is also very filling for a longer time. So that definitely helps. In terms of trends, I think I will completely agree with Goenkaji, because post-COVID, regional food is taken up very well. I will not only say towards South India, but across the country. You go to any state and the regional food is what is selling the most. And I think that trend will continue. We are going back to the roots. And what I have understood in my journey of a chef that, what will sell is what is comforting to you and not very surprising. So that is where I think next 5-10 years, regional cuisine will take a lot of, shape in terms of being the leader in terms of food. Yeah, recent inflation definitely had a big impact, specifically with tomatoes and some large chains dropping them off their menus. What I have done with places I am associated with, we always keep a backup for a backup ready. So it did affect, we did have to tweak recipes a bit, but then we always kept backups ready. So even if fresh tomato was there, not there, we could use purees or pastes or canned tomatoes which are available. But then one has to be very agile in these times because suddenly you are coming out of one issue and you'll have another crisis hitting. So I think agility is very important, and that's not only a person in the team; it's the entire team and how we navigate through that crisis. So we have to keep in mind we need to also anticipate and build relations with farmers and the trade guys because a lot of times you get insight as to what is coming. For example, a couple of us we knew around 5 months back that the rice import ban which was going to come because rice suddenly the basmati rice the prices had gone up too much and they had to do it because otherwise it would have shot up to 250 if that ban was not imposed. So I think just being aware and connected to people really helps navigating through these challenges.
Sure. No, I completely agree with you over there. But if at all, when such such shortfalls tend to happen in the market, then how do you, as a restaurateur, as a chef, sort of then tweak the menu to be able to not be much different from what you are and yet be able to manage the costs?
A very sincere answer to that question is if it is something which is very integral to the brand. For example, a couple of years back when Onion had a crisis, I was heading Paradise Biryani nationally. And onion is a very integral part of our biryani. We used to use almost 4 tons a day. We had to be there. We could not take any way. There was no leeway to, not have onion. So at some times, if a brand is built on something, we have to take that brand. There is no other way but to take that cost hit on your P&L.
So, and if at all, it is not that integral, then what do you suggest? That maybe some
we can
items can be
have-
taken off the menu?
Yes, absolutely. You can take off items off menu. You can tweak recipes in a way where you can still maintain the taste and the texture, but not have the item used as much as you used to use before the crisis hit. But then we need to also get back to it as soon as the prices come down. Otherwise, we get into a flow where we continue with the iterations and then we lose away from the authenticity of the food.
Sure. Mahesh, have you sort of also felt this because I know you have pizza toppings which go across board. So how do you sort of then manage your inflationary pressure like this?
Luckily, we had kept tomato in very few pizzas only. But though onion was there, but one advantage what is we have done a national tie-up with the vegetable, irrespective of the price increase or decrease, they have to give it a standard price. And this is what, in fact, everybody were globally they were asking me how you are able to manage. So this is the advantage of India that where we can do the contracts like this and the supplies can be consistent also.
Sure.
So we manage, with the contract of annual contract with the same price.
Right. Sudeepji, do you see alternatives for such trends that keep on now cropping in India, whether it is rice or onions or tomatoes, and maybe it could be something else in the coming months? So, how do you then create that standardization on how do you work with restaurants to make sure that such crises do not affect restaurant chains?
Just to pitch in, potato is next, by the way.
Yeah, that's correct. Bananas too.
So to answer your question, I would largely agree with Chef. There are some products which don't have an alternative or a substitute product. So those like onions, tomatoes, potatoes, there's no substitute to that actually. But there are many other products which do have substitute, especially in spices. Like we have cinnamon, we have mace, we have big cardamom. So a lot of that is being able to substitute. But yes, to an extent, there are times, and probably it's a cyclic environment that we are living in, every 2 years or 3 years, one crop would shoot up and then come down. So we do take a hit on one of the crops every year. And this is where uh, we cannot go against our original standard flavor. If we are making a chola masala, and that is why the customer is liking it, it takes 20 years, 30 years to build a brand and to get that taste palatable to that customer. But it will take only one moment for him to say no, and then we are done for the entire life. And this is the same with running a restaurant or being a chef. So I think we have to live with those times. What we need to do is, if there is a certain brand or a certain product which is a flagship product on the menu, the time has come that we cannot ride on the same flagship product. On the same menu, we need to have two, three, four, or five more flagship products which the customers would drive into the restaurant or to us. And same goes with us. We help the restaurants to create that flagship product with our R&D center, because there's a huge risk putting all eggs in one basket. If you go across the traditional chains across India, in Bangalore, in Chennai, or in Hyderabad as chefs at biryani. So if you are riding only on one product, I think it's a bad story, because you don't know what's going to happen to the main product. But yes, lastly, I think there is a lot of scope, as Mahesh said, with improvisation of Western taste in a palate. And this is where I always think globally, act locally. A lot of ingredients are being imported in India also, because we have so many people traveling. This is where an alternate, apart from depending on the Indian soil, we can also have those products or raw materials imported. For example, quinoa. Quinoa is doing very well in India, which is actually a South American cereal or millet or grain. So those alternatives are already in process, but together we need to work much better how to create a quinoa ramen or a ragi pasta, which can actually create alternatives where customer is not going unhappy.
Sure. No, I think that's a great point that you've made over there. And I think restaurants also need to be flexible in terms of how they are going about their growth and about their food. And, sometimes, ramen might actually just be a sort of God given in such circumstances. And, you develop new palettes for the customer. I also want to ask Mr. Teja, running restaurants out of America, and you're running chain restaurants out there also. What do you think are some good practices that exist out there in that market? And it's such a eating out market. It's one of the best eating out markets in the world. So what are some rules or some fundamentals that the restaurateurs out there have cracked well, which India is still to learn?
So one thing is, I think, is efficiency. So for doing the same amount of business or same amount of volume, as I was earlier telling about, like we employ around 8 people in the kitchen versus around 25, 30 people here in the kitchen. So here, when compared with other Western countries, labor is affordable comparatively. So maybe we are using more people than we need, or maybe we are not following the systems, or instead of following the systems, we just depend on people here, because that's the biggest resource we have in India, because of the population we have. So maybe our processes are not so streamlined. So that's the reason why we are having so many people for doing the same amount of work. So that's one thing. And even if you look at the front of the house, usually around a 150-seater, we have around 5 people. So, but the same 150-seater here employs around more than 10 people, 10 to 20 people in between, depending on the operations, depending on what they're selling. So maybe it's one thing is the efficiency of the people. So that's one thing which I think is different. And other than that, the other processes, for example, in the kitchen, the prepping process, everything, we are a little bit streamlined outside the country than in India.
Right. So, in fact, somebody has asked you a question also in this, from the audience, that how difficult it is to run an Indian restaurant in a global market, and who are your target clientele or audience over there in the restaurants?
So we run multiple Indian restaurant brands in US. So Godavari is a South Indian restaurant. So we have around 30 locations. So the main TG for the main target group is mostly Indian crowd. So at the same time, we have another brand called Madras Dosa Company. So that our main target group is non-Indians, Americans or people Indians who are born there. Because one thing is MDC is comparatively expensive. So those are there at MDC costs around $18 to $20, which we usually don't like to buy. We try to find those around $78. That's what Indians we do there. So that's a different target group we are targeting. But other than that, 1947 is another North Indian restaurant, which we target Indians. So the target is around 80% Indians and 20% non-Indians. That's the split we get. And some locations, depending on the location, it changes again. So if some location is not so heavily Indian populated, so at that point of time, maybe we look at other options like other target groups. But usually when we are trying to set up a new location, we try to look for the crowd which we want to serve.
Right.
So if it's a Godavari, we want to be in areas where it's heavily Indian populated. So if it's Madras Dosa Company, we want to be in, like for example, the locations we have is Seaport, Boston, which is completely like non-Indian area, and in Harvard Square. And now we are looking for one more location in Times Square. So all these locations are not focused on Indians.
Right. So that's interesting. Mahesh, I want to ask you the same question I've asked Teja, that, what are some of the good Korean practices do you think Indian restaurants need to learn?
I feel with the K-dramas and K-pop, we are learning the fashion, the music. Now coming to the cuisine part also. In the Korean, I feel we have a lot of sauces which is been launched. So with the sauces, we are going to launch the chicken also. So chicken will have a lot of different types of sauces. Fries will have a lot of different types of sauces. Pizzas will have different types of sauces. And then now ramen also, which we recently launched. Other than this sauces, because sauces is the only thing which we can play in a pizza QSR. But if it is some other QSR, there's so many new trends which will come, and you will see, and which I can see it's coming also. Just because of the clientele acceptability or the age gap, the trend which is changing, you will see the new trends in the next 2-3 years of these cultures will be accepted. Now coming to the cuisine part, because I keep going every month to these countries. I still see there's so much of opportunity because we're still 10-15 years behind to understand those cultures also. But I see with our new generation, with our kids, because of acceptance is very fast. These cultures coming and this will give us an opportunity in the QSR itself for the new brands to evolve.
So there's somebody who's asked you on pretty much on the same line, and they say that I'm a big time pizza lover and K-drama is my favorite. So what is the percentage of your menu that you've dedicated to enthusiasts like us? And also, is it Indianized? Any part of your menu?
Yeah. Being in India, India menu also has to be there. Like for example, if you go to Italy, if you say cottage paneer pizza, they'll say paneer on a pizza. Italy, they'll not accept. But in India, let it be paneer, let it be onion capsicum, let it be tandoori, has to be part of the menu. Though as presently we have 40% Indian, 60% Korean in the entire menu.
Sure. So there's another question, sir. Is it mandate for a restaurant chain to raise some funds for pan-India expansion in today's date? I mean, how does it help really? So you've raised it, Mahesh. So maybe you can
Yeah.
comment on it.
Yeah, the format can run in two ways. One is franchisee way, one is by raising the fund. When on the board, this was a big challenge for me. How do we expand? But if you show your model profitable, scalable, and this is very easily, it is possible only in India. Scalable because of our geography, and profitable because of our overheads cost not as high like any other country. Any investor, there was a time when the investor used to put money. If you open number of outlets, we will invest you. All investors understand our F&B business today. Every investor wants EBITDA, profitability, and every outlet has to make money. So if your model is profitable, and if the model, like which we tried and we showed it in all the verticals in airports, highways, everywhere, with the acceptable rentals and a less overhead, it's easy to raise the fund. And it was easy because I keep interacting with these investors every fortnight. They only ask today PNL. And they're shocked to see the opportunity in India as compared to any other country. And just to tell, in fact, we just tied up with CP Group, which is a big group in Thailand. Every day we interact with them. More funding has come just because of India now. Because India is showing that profitability and that possibility of an opportunity where the brand can grow.
Sure. I'll come back to you again, Mahesh. Mr. Sudeep, there's a question that do you think post-COVID businesses like yours have added? How have you added so much value in the restaurant and hotel kitchen?
Okay, so I think it is actually a reverse question. I would like to thank all the different chefs across the country who force us or to innovate and to create new ingredients, have a recipe which helps to make the customer's experience much better. Otherwise, we would have been doing the same organic business and making term CTC. So it is actually the chefs who are actually on the ground, and it's the most difficult job. I have a huge respect for all of you that you understand the palate of the customer, the footfall that is happening, different age bracket that is coming in, different demography of people, expats, and then you innovate your menu, which helps us to communicate with the chefs and to be innovative and flexible enough in our plants in our R&D center to create that different kind of products for the chefs to be able to create that recipe, and also as the Horeca owners like Mahesh and Teja to make it viable in terms of economies. So I think it's the reverse, and we at Goldie Group, we are doing a lot of pilot project to have more communication with the chefs to get a better experience for customers.
Sure. Chef Ami, there's a question I want to ask you that today we are in an age where a lot of frozen foods are also being used by restaurants in their menus. But do you feel that a customer, after paying so much money in a restaurant, some sort of feels that it would not be right to be eating frozen food? I mean, you can do that by buying it out of a supermarket also and heating it and eating it. So how do you then sort of build a menu which is sort of a good mix between frozen and live cooking to be able to give the customer what they want?
So it depends of what kind of frozen foods you're using in a restaurant menu. If it is limited to the ingredients, it is still fine. For example, if I'm using a frozen vegetables or I'm using certain frozen meats, it is still okay. But if I'm using value-added products, for example, if I'm using a frozen sauce or I'm using a frozen marinated meat, or if I'm using a frozen gravy, then it definitely doesn't make sense because then you can just buy it off the shelf from the supermarket and you can have the same thing at home. But if I'm using as a base ingredient, it definitely at times makes more sense because at times the way ingredients are handled in our country is sometimes fresh is more worse than what you get frozen, because the quality of frozen ingredients at times will be much better than fresher ones. So if it is being used as a base ingredient, it definitely makes a lot of sense. but not as a value-added product. As in, I would not use a frozen gravy, makhani gravy just for example in my menu. But if I'm getting a frozen tomato or a frozen tomato paste, I would definitely want to use that.
Sure. Mahesh, in QSR, of course, the use of frozen is done very differently. So how do you then balance what customer wants?
There's a difference between fresh assembly food, fresh cooked food. So that now it's like a difference between OTT versus multiplex. The war which is happening, as you rightly said, frozen food we can do it at home also. You're right, but the cooking temperature, the equipments what is being used to cook this food make a differentiate. We freshly cook the pizza, a stone pizzas. We freshly give the taste. This taste cannot come at home. That's how we differentiate. Possible. There are like cheese. Now cheese should we say frozen, but cheese is kept in the fridge. That is only the difference. Now you'll say vegetables are frozen. We use all fresh ingredients in the day to day. So we do not use frozen items. We use daily cut vegetables and freshly cooked items. So that's how we differentiate between frozen item versus freshly cooked.
Sure. Chef, I think there's another question for you. The question is that I've visited Paradise many a times. One thing you as a chef believe, these kinds of restaurant need to standardize, as we do not see Indian chains, especially in segment like biryani, go out of the world and expand.
A question very dear to me. Thanks for asking that question. And I think the reason being, our Indian entrepreneurs put most of the money in building the outside of the outlet and not spend money at the back. Not spend money getting the right infrastructure in the kitchen, not spending time on putting system and process. And I think, what do we learn from the successful American brands who have expanded to 30,000-40,000 outlets is when you see they invest heavily in the back end, because that is where the revenue comes from. And they invest little less on the outside. And I think Indian chains are starting now to spend. And as a chef, I truly believe that in current times and times to come ahead, we need to have the right balance between man and machine, because the skilled labor is day by day getting less, not many people coming to industry. And now we have some amazing equipments available who help us. So I think it is imperative that if any brand wants to grow, they have to spend, sustainable and a huge portion of their capex towards setting up systems and processes, getting the right infrastructure and right people at the right places. And I think we will see that coming next 5-10 years. We'll see a lot of Indian brands going out and doing that stuff. It is just about time when it is starting. But yeah, I think, suppose, for example, if someone making a restaurant worth 4 crores, they will put 3 crores in the outside and 1 crore in the kitchen. And that's exactly where most of the people go wrong. So I think the more you spend at the heart is exactly like what is happening with heart attacks with people. Your heart is something which you don't see, but if you don't take care of it well, you will have an attack. So we need to take care of the heart of the business, and which is in F&B is food and nothing else.
Sure. For Teja and Mahesh, we have another question, and I think though we've answered it, but maybe, we want to touch upon this again, that how you're leveraging technology to improve customer experience in QSRs and restaurants. So Teja, maybe you want to go first.
Okay. So one thing, we use various CRM softwares, and also we monitor all the reviews we get. So for example, on a daily basis, the marketing team, they collect all the reviews from all the platforms and they email it to me in an Excel sheet. So we do the customer review rating and all those things. So whatever reviews are 3 or less than 3 comes to me. So above 3, they don't come to me. So when I get it, based on the Excel sheet, what we get. So the managers, they need to answer for all the negative reviews. And if there is a real problem there, that problem needs to be fixed within 48 hours of the review, what is being escalated. So that's one review management we follow. And at the same time, now we are started using the different CRM softwares to directly communicate more with the customers, like say, for example, to gather feedback from them directly instead of going onto the platforms or waiting for the customer to go onto the platform. The customer can then and there give a review. And also the staff will track, like say, for example, the manager or the floor managers, they frequently interact with try to interact with all the tables possible. So it might not be possible to interact with every table, but they try to interact with as many tables as possible. So we try to keep in touch with the customers, through the managers, or we monitor all the review platforms where we're getting reviews. And to maintain the data, we use different CRM softwares for that.
So I think a good way to also address this, Mr. Teja, would be to, in your entire investment towards a restaurant location, how much percentage is outlaid for technology?
For technology, technology has really, we started using getting more into more technologies from COVID. And we use other different, but the spend is not that high because all these softwares, they're not very expensive. They're reasonably priced. So, but now we are trying to get more into data analytics to analyze the data and to analyze the sale data or the customer experience data, all these data. So that's a little bit expensive than all these regular softwares because the POS and the recipe management and all these other softwares are, because of the competition they have between the different software providers. So they're not very expensive. To answer your question, I think it will be depending on the size of the project, because the project size might increase, but the software use will be the same. It's the same software we use for a 5,000 square feet versus the same software we use for the 1 lakh square feet.
Right. But just in percentage terms, maybe 5%, 7% of the entire.
Less than 5% for sure.
Sure. So that could be a good ballpark figure for anybody who's opening a new restaurant, to say that about 5 to 6% of the investment will go towards technology integration in the restaurant.
Yeah.
Mahesh, do you also sort of agree with Mr. Teja on this?
Yes, I do agree. And being in IT capital Bangalore, if we do not use the technology, I feel that will be the opportunity loss. And in fact, the entire globe, in fact, all my other countries, they want me to handle the entire technology from Bangalore for Singapore, Indonesia, for US, being affordable over here, because the same AI what we use here versus the cost there, it's almost 10 times more. That's one. Second, in the outlet point, I feel the loyalty. Today, the manager, if he technology-wise is helping him to input what he has done, he doesn't have to think so much. For example, how much he has to indent, when he has to indent, and how to repeat the customer, what offers to be given. Also, technology helps on it. More than this, the one advantage is, of course, because of the UPI and the digital platform which we have, payment mode. Now it's almost 90% is digital and only 10% is cash. There was a time when it was 70-30% versus, and there used to be a lot of pilferage in the cash. A lot of issues used to happen. But today we do not have those issues. The payment mode has been settled. All are integrated. So all this technology has been taken care. The third is the inventory, which has been handled very smoothly because of the technology. So coming to the part, how much I feel still India, it requires some more time. For example, a self kiosk which is there to place the order. Still Indians, we want experience. We want somebody to come and take our order. We will not go to that self kiosk and place. So it requires certain more time. But to whoever has asked this question, it is required, and there will be time because we will have shortage of, or the challenge or the crunch of manpower in the front end. That time, the technology only can help us at that time.
Sure. So we've nearly run out of time. In fact, we're out of time now. So very quick one-liner from all of you as we conclude this session, starting with you, Mahesh. Maybe one advice to anybody who is newly entering into restaurant business.
I feel we all should feel lucky. A, because we are Indians. Second, we are in India. And third, next 10 years is QSR, F&B business. Just go for it, because there's so much of opportunity, and with experience of almost 25 years, this much of opportunity, I wish I would have had 20 years back. I feel I would have been somewhere else. But today, opportunity, and just grab it.
Thank you. Mr. Teja?
Yeah. So one thing is, most of the restaurants or most of the F&B businesses, they think they're selling the product. So I think now it's all shifting towards experience economy. So for the people who want to start new restaurants, instead of just focusing on the product, we need to focus more on everything. Like, so it's an experience where a person can eat the same food, or maybe he can Swiggy to his home, and he can have the same food at his home. So, but he's coming to your outlet for an experience. So it should be, it's a 360 degrees thing. Like say it includes your product, your service, your ambience. And like say, for example, for us at Iron Hill or all the pros and all these places, there'll be some activity going on, whether it's music or something. So it's all including, it's a package for people. It's all experience economy is what we think is going towards. So, and F&B is something which needs to be done with interest rather than just like a business. So if you're curating the menu, it needs to be done with passion and interest, not just like selling something. Like say, for example, I can sell a phone just off the shelf, but you can't do that with food or with your drinks. So it's all experience and your interest, and it requires time and effort.
Sure. Mr. Sudeep?
My suggestion to everyone is definitely India is a land of opportunity. The whole world is looking at India. This is the right time to enter this segment. Only to be careful about scalability. It sounds very simple when the gentlemen speak here, but there has been a lot of things going on the back end. So I think all of us have started very small, and there is one flagship store or one flagship product which actually clicked, and the moment that clicked, then we don't know how it creates a ripple on in the water. So check the pulse, keep it alive, but don't let it go away.
Sure. Chef?
To add to everything what everyone said, have the right balance between man, machine, and technology, and find your hero product.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for sharing those great insights. And I'm looking forward to, more that you're going to tell us and share with us at the Indian Restaurant Congress 2023. And I invite everybody to be there, and we have these more exhilarating discussions and new growth championing Indian restaurant scene and the hospitality scene, which we are going to see. So thank you very much for joining us today. Really appreciate your thoughts and your wisdom that you brought to the webinar today. Over to you, Pratima.
Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for joining. And this was just the curtain raiser to our main show, largely for our audience. This is our website, and we've got a fantastic panel. We've got about 100 plus speakers who will be joining us for IRC 2023. We've got about eight curated sessions, 8 curated summits. Here are some of our speakers. The who's who of the industry would be here. We're expecting about 500 plus delegates from across the country to join us. Like I mentioned earlier, we are doing Restaurant India Investment and Development Expo. Parallelly, we are doing a supplier exhibition. So please join us. We are looking forward to host you on the 25th and 26th of September at Hotel Pullman, Delhi. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you very much. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.